the first step is to take responsibility for what happens in your life. And that's the lesson that I learned by being CEO of a company, in fact, of more than one company. The good and the bad that happens in the company, in one way or another, I had a lot to do by doing something, or even more by not doing something when I should have done something. That is an idea that in the beginning was hard to grasp, because it is mostly by not doing what you should be doing that you attract to yourself suffering and whatever. Okay, for example, it was not taking care of myself, for example, my inner reality, that I became very estranged for myself and I was unhappy with my life. For example, it was not because I did something wrong, because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And so it is very important to take that responsibility. And it was exactly because I had taken responsibility of my life that when I was suffering, I say, somehow I created that for myself. I didn't look outside somebody to blame for my state, but I say, what did I do? I want to know, what did I do to create this to myself? Who am I? Why is that going on? With that sense of responsibility. This is my life. I am in charge of my life. That very important. Because if you don't go there, you will always find outside the problems that affects you. They always come from the outside. That's why you go to the outside to find the cure. Once you know that your happiness or not depends on you, from your interiority, from your conscious self, to your inner experience, the meaning, the love that you have within for yourself and from others, that stuff. Then you can find the solution. But if you don't, you had to reach there first. Otherwise, you will always look at some kind of magic inside or outside to solve your problem, but it's not you.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your new book, which we just got a little taste of. And one of the quotes that I wanted you to talk about as you introduce us to what this next book is: not matter, we're not mind, we are spirit. That is meaning, love, joy, and peace. And if we want to have a better future, we must all radically change direction together. And to do this, we must first change our minds about who we are. I inverted those intentionally. Talk a little bit about what this means and what this new book is going to introduce us to that is not covered in Irreducible, which I can't imagine there's anything left because I love this so much. But tell us what we can expect.
I mean, my next book is actually not in English yet. I mean, I had translated. It will be out in hopefully in 6 months or so.
Even people who speak English might think that this is not written in English. It's very dense.
That idea is an idea that will be my fourth book. It is an idea that the theory that I have can actually be explained very effectively with the concept of body, mind, and spirit, which I also illustrated earlier, where you have essentially, these three aspects are not separate. They're not separable. But so when we concentrate with one, we cannot lose sight that the other two are also present. When we tend to concentrate on one, we tend to separate the others, because the way we write and the way we think tends to work that way, because we focus on something. But in reality, body, mind, and spirit are three inseparable aspects which have overlaps, like I mentioned before. I mentioned three overlaps, plus the overlap in the center, which is all three together, which is the essence of one, essentially. That's the white light, the love, peace, joy, meaning, all that stuff. It is where we want to get to within ourselves, in communicating and so on, to get to that meaning that unites, that brings us back to one. Next book is Beyond the Invisible, and Beyond the Invisible is actually a conversation, so it's easier to read and allows me to repeat things in different contexts without being accused of repeating myself. The context determines the meaning of, I mean, even particles, when the property of the particles depend on the interaction that the particles has. So the reality is not built with things that are absolute. Everything is relative to each other.
Talk a lot about exceptional phenomenon. We talk a lot about extrasensory perception on this podcast. We really try and understand the science of many things that a lot of people would consider outside of science. I want to ask you a few things, and I want you to give us your most honest answer, both from your scientific and your spiritual perspective. Okay, I'm going to start with kind of a softball one. Collective consciousness. Is there a collective consciousness?
It is a collective consciousness. In a sense, we are a collective consciousness. We are fields of fields of fields of fields of fields. So we exist with a comprehension, which is all the comprehensions of lower levels. Like atoms are more than the parts that compose them, and the nucleons are more than the protons and neutrons, but then the neutrons are more than the quarks and the gluons, and this kind of thing.
What happens when we die? Is there an afterlife? Does consciousness exist after we die?
Yeah, I think that I believe the essence of the near-death experiences, of which there are hundreds of thousands, known, and hundreds of books written about. So people don't believe they should read at least one or two of those books and have a sense of it, because they are, their coherence of what happens is so strong that and those are people that don't have the body doesn't work anymore, the brain doesn't work, and they have extraordinary experiences that change their life. How can that be that you have an experience that is so powerful that changes your life, and you were not even functioning as a body? I mean, if we are the body, that's that needs to be explained, and you cannot explain it by just eliminating it like scientism does. If you don't, there's something. If something that you cannot prove something, forget it. It doesn't exist. Well, that's too convenient.
Are we in a simulation? What do you think about simulation theory?
Oh, we're not in a simulation, but this reality, however, is mostly virtual reality in the sense that, but is a virtual reality that we create. Now we're not in a simulator created by somebody else, and we are just little avatars there thinking that we are, that we are what we are. No, that's not. No, this is a game that we have created, and we are in the game we create. We are actor, also the creators of this game, and we learn from this game to create other games. so I mean, this is just but a lot of this reality that we think is real is actually a construction of information that is experienced as a reality in the field. So it doesn't exist here. It exists in the field, in our consciousness. Because the quantum states of the field are not separable from the field, I cannot say that this is virtual. Virtual reality is what you get with a computer, for example, right. Full virtual reality, where the bits of the computer are entirely our creations. They don't exist. We have created them. And we are the ones, our consciousness is the one that gives reality to it when we put a headset and we see space and objects and things going around, and we look around and it looks like it's a real reality, and it's all done by bits of the computer. That is virtual reality. That does not exist in the same sense that game that I was talking about earlier exists.
We create our experience, therefore we can adjust our experience. So in that way, we can adjust the game. Some posit that the fields that all consciousness is part of were created by some external force, which would be the potential for the simulation. Not that our personal experiences are simulated, but that the entire creation of consciousness and all of the fields that make up it may have an external creator.
It's like, my body is being created by a cell. Every cell on my body is a copy of that cell that created this body. Okay? So I'm self-created. It's not a creator. I'm a part whole of one. So I'm indivisible from one. So I'm one in some way, but not one in the sense that I'm all of one. I'm a part whole of one. It's an holographic principle. It's not made like computers are made. Machines are not made that way. They're not made of parts whole. They're made of parts. They are separable.
About the evolution of technology, you created the microprocessor before you had your big spiritual awakening. So it's a two-part question. One, do you feel like that information was given to you in a way to have that breakthrough to create this world-changing technology? And two, how do you see the evolution of technology as it relates to our experience of ourselves, to either know ourselves? Some will say it's helped us know ourselves better, having conversations like this, being able to share information, while at the same time, it's distracted us from ourselves, increasing the ability to check out, to have digital distraction, and create companies that their sole goal is to take every moment of our free time and attention.
Perhaps my biggest invention was the invention of the silicon gate technology, allowed to make the microprocessor. That I did my first job when I came in this country. I was 26, working for Fairchild. That technology was 5 times faster than the previous technology, was reliable. You could put twice as many transistors, and it had about 500 times less leakage current. So you could make dynamic random access memories. You couldn't do semiconductor memories before. But with this technology, you could do everything to make a computer in a single chip. And the first step was the memories, dynamic RAM, and the microprocessor. The microprocessor also used dynamic RAM side, okay? Because the static RAM were too many transistors. So that is how I did this thing. And it was a number of intuitions that allow me to do that. And of course, a lot of work. But also the intuition was that the microprocessor were a new step in the evolution of computers that would allow, with this technology, to miniaturize and have computers everywhere and so on. And so that was something that I understood, and I wanted to really create as fast as possible. And Intel in the early days did not understand, the management did not understand the microprocessor were the future. Thought memories were the future, computers, the big computers. They did not understand that the little thing could be a big thing. Right? We have now, in one chip, we have now computers that couldn't even fit in a skyscraper, for Christ's sake, in a chip like this now. So I decided, my second generation microprocessor, the 8080 of Intel, that it took me 9 months to convince them, my management, to let me do it. And then when I done that, they were 6 times faster than better architecture, done faster than the previous one. Still were wasting their time to get the next one. So I decided to start my own company. I said, that's it. I have enough of this. So I started my first company. Zilog developed the Z80 that became a bestseller. And it's still in production today, almost 50 years after it was introduced. So, but that compared to what I'm doing now, like child play, sense, is a child plane in the sense that it only covers this stuff, this stuff. We are beyond measure, I mean, that's what excites me, is that if we wake up to our own reality, the machines that we do is already the brain, our brain has about 100 trillion parameters. GPT has 3 trillion parameters. So, and our brain consumes 20 watts power. Nobody can build a computer better than the brain, but not even close, because our brain can do things that no computer in existence can do, and by itself, never mind by the connection with the field that we are, because it's like having a programmer and a conscious being connected with the brain. And the brain is just a machine. The brain is a machine. So the machine does what the programmer wants. It's on board. All is on board. So it's a new world. So technology, just use the way we use technology today without a sense of who we are, can become dangerous. And that's the danger that I see, is both in the nuclear technology that, now an arsenal of tens of thousands of atomic bombs that any crazy person could use. So that's a very dangerous, very dangerous thing to have, sitting around. And of course, AI will become a major problem, or a major abundance if it is used right. But to be used right, we need to change the idea of who we are. Because if we think that we are here to compete and to beat the less fortunate of us, not the way the technology will help. It will actually help those guys to destroy humanity. And that's not the game that I would like to see.
Rico Fagin, it's really such a pleasure to get to speak to you. We're so grateful for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I'm curious how you heard the explanation of how the cell is impacted by changing our perspective and changing the state around us.
Look, I think this is a really important addition to so many of our conversations about, in particular, the kind of loving kindness meditation, the kind of focus on manifesting or placing yourself in an environment that feels like you've already achieved it. In the meditation that I led people in, that's over on Substack, that's what we talked about. Imagine something beautiful and create the emotional state as if you're there. It's very, very powerful. And I love how many different places we're getting for people to pull from support for that, whether it's Bruce Lipton, from this more kind of, cell biology perspective, or it's Federico Fagin from this, quantum and like microcosmic and macrocosmic, quantum collective consciousness sort of perspective. I'm super fascinated with this concept, of love. Again, that's just the word you put on it. Like, don't think about how you feel about the person that you're dating and, oh, well, I'm in love with them. What does that have to do with it? We're talking about the state of feeling joy, peace, serenity, that you are loved, that you are taken care of. That's a different kind of, what he's talking about is almost like a fundamental, foundation of the universe, is that feeling that we were, and these are the religious concepts. We're created out of love, right?
Description reminds me a lot of like the first time I sensed energy, where my palm was tingling and all of a sudden I had an experience that was so foreign to how I had grown up and anything that I'd experienced in the past that I couldn't reconcile it with my understanding of reality. And he describes that in order to change and come up with solutions that may not be purely based on competition, that may be more cooperative, which we can't really imagine right now because our entire society is based on, well, if I get this, then you don't get that. And, anything else is seen as uncapitalist. And, it's described that capitalism is not the best option, but it's better than all the others.
Yeah, in some cases, I think you have to separate out these conversations. And I really appreciated your question, especially from, to ask the creator of the, what we use as a microprocessor and the phone that we hold in our hand, to ask that person, what would you have been like if you did not have a desire to compete, to get ahead, to run a company, like all those things. But I think what he was saying also is, and the question I didn't get to ask him, but I kind of feel like I can imagine the answer, if he didn't create the microprocessor, would someone else have? The answer is yes, of course. But would another human being have his particular awakening experience? No, that was his alone. But as he indicated, that part is indicative of the entire whole, right? And that experience is sourced in what he calls one.